concern, it's just that he loses access to that parking lot. It's a
No,
personal
we're like
thing.
a foot out.
Probably not that much.
Wants to pick up his daughter at high school.
Yeah.
Has to drive straight away like the rest of the place.
Okay, guys, we're all set.
We're ready to go then.
Yeah,
The mic is on?
yes, sir.
Good. Okay, I'd like to call to order, Board of Selectmen meeting, January 27th, 2022. Pledge of allegiance. Start with the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So, roll call, we have, Bill Meyer, Selectman Bill Meyer to my right, Selectman Bob Schmidt to my left. We have, CFO Mike Marinaccio, Assistant Finance Director Brian Wissinger. We have, Public Works Director Todd Rowland, and we have, Social Services Director Allison Mayer, as well as Kim LaFleur, who is the Secretary for tonight's meeting and also the Operations Director. So, public comment, we always have a public comment period at the beginning of our meetings. Is there any public comment this evening?
Okay, sir.
Yeah, welcome.
Welcome.
You just give your name and your address and,
Somebody can take my mask off.
Sure.
Sure.
There you go.
Dave Butler.
I've got them all set here.
Oh, you know one? Okay, thank you.
I think I turned it on. Yeah, it's on, okay. This is very light. What's your address, sir?
I was requested to come here tonight to the town's meeting to voice.
If you just state your name and your address, that'd be
Dave
great,
Butler.
just for the record.
237 Mountain View Road.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
I was requested to come to the town meeting to voice my concerns regarding a locked gate at the public park off of Field Road. The gate in question is adjacent to the metal building near the tennis courts. I use the public
Oh, okay.
parking lot quite a bit,
Okay.
very often, and never seen it inaccessible before or locked before. I called the town hall and was told to speak to someone at the rec department about it. The person I spoke with at the rec department told me the gate was being closed after 3 p.m. from Thanksgiving to April. There's a sign there that states, gate closed after 3 p.m. for the winter season. She continued to tell me the gate was being closed due to people driving on and tearing up the grass, and also due to ruts in the road. I was confused as I believe all the fields down there are closed off by fences, so I'm not quite sure how.
Closed off by what?
Fences?
Fences? Okay.
There's fences around the fields and borders and whatnot, so you can't really drive a car onto the grass. So it didn't quite make sense to me. As far as the ruts in the road, the ground is solid as rock, it's frozen, so there's no rust in the driveway there, the parking lot.
What do you use the road for? I'm just curious. I mean, is this,
It's a parking lot.
I mean, do you go through there quite a bit? I mean, to pick your kids up at school, is that what you do?
It doesn't matter why I go through there, but it's just a parking lot.
Oh, I just didn't know, cause I don't much.
Parking lot he's referring to, right?
Yeah.
We use the soccer field there a lot.
Yeah, yeah,
The kids will use that and I'll sit in my car and watch them.
yeah.
In any event, as a member of the public, I asked if the gate could be unlocked. I was told no, the gate can't be unlocked. The answer is no. If I had any other questions, I should talk to the first selectman. So I called the first selectman's office and eventually spoke with Mr. Keeney. Mr. Keeney told me the gate was closed due to people doing donuts there, and members of the public were parking at the publicly paid for parking lot to avoid being charged for parking at the Summers High School. So I guess students are parking at the parking lot at the park instead of the high school parking lot where they gotta pay apparently.
Actually, I also mentioned it was for students that had been, told they couldn't park at the student parking lot. instead of using this as a backup, if I can't, being disciplined, can't park at the student parking lot, I'll park here.
Yeah, that
Okay.
makes sense.
Yeah.
The public parking lot, and I'm sure they're able to park there, they're members of the public. So it just didn't make sense to me that they're closing the park, according to the sign, at 3 PM from November to April.
Closing the gate.
Closing the gate, from November to April, to keep people from parking, to kind of force people to park in the student parking lot, I guess, I don't know. But school's open before 3 PM, so that didn't make sense. And school's open before November and after April, so that kinda didn't make sense. As far as people doing donuts in the parking lot, if someone's intent on breaking the law to do donuts in the parking lot, they'd be able to do the donuts in the parking lot in September and May, or before 3 PM, so that didn't make sense. So none of it makes sense.
Okay.
It's a public park, right?
Yep.
Open to the public, there's public parking there, so we should be able to use the public parking at the public park, is what I'm contending.
Okay, great, I'm gonna ask Todd Rowland, Director of Public,
They should lock the gate, or there shouldn't be a
gonna
gate
ask
there.
Todd Rowland, Director of Public Works, to explain why the gate is locked,
Hi, we,
at 3
first
o'clock.
talked to the history a little bit about this. Todd Rowland, Director of Public Works. There's been a gate at the park for the winter season for decades, going back decades. Originally, the gate was at Field Road and the park was closed for the winter season. That was moved, as I'm given to understand, sometime in the 2005, 4, 6, somewhere in there, down a little bit to allow parking in the upper parking lot, which is the paved parking lot closest to Field Road. That was there until 2010, when we actually moved the gate down to the maintenance building where it is today, after we had improved the roadway and made more parking available along the new guardrail that was put in that same time frame. So the upper parking lots are available all the time, and we do plow them when we get to them. It's a tier 3, which means we plow them on a regularly scheduled Monday through Friday day after everything else is done. The reason for locking the gate in the wintertime is for high incidence of vandalism, 1. 2 was also, people going down there late at night and doing whatever they're doing, that the police were concerned with. And the other reason is we did have incidents of people, when the gates were open, going in, cutting the locks on the soccer fields in particular, and driving around on the soccer fields. So there's vandalism. It's nuisance vandalism. Depending on how hard the ground is, it will depend on how much damage there is, if any. And you're right, if the ground sounds like today, you're not gonna do any damage. That's not always the case. So we've been continuing this practice that's been going on for years. It's a past practice. I kind of understand what you're saying. You like to avail yourself to the whole park. There is parking on the whole upper parking lot. A lot of people use that. If it's a nice day, there's no snow on the ground, we get a lot of people using the playground as well as the pavilion. There's a lot of walkers that go into the entire park and go around the backside of the high school. Other thing we did after Sandy Hook, if you look at the 2 red boxes on the map, the gate right behind the high school is always closed whenever school's in session, as well as the lower gate by the ball field. We put that gate in and also put in those concrete blocks after Sandy Hook, when the schools went through their security, so that the car can't run unabated into the cafeteria. Those gates are always closed during school. In the summer, after April 1st, which is our traditional opening day, the park is open. The gate by the maintenance building is always open. The lower gate gets opened after school lets out for the athletics to go on in the fields well into the evening, particularly with the lights on some of those fields. So the practice has been to keep the lower parking lot closed to vehicular traffic in the winter at night, frankly. We open the gate, the maintenance guys at the park open the gate generally Monday through Friday.
Why reason at 3 o'clock?
We get out at 3:30. The guys in the park leave and they go to the DPW and demobilize, put their vehicles away so they can leave at 3:30. If we left it open later, somebody else would have to lock it later. Other than, unless we're going to hire somebody or pay overtime every day, it's impractical.
Todd, I might say that even though my kids have been out of the high school for years, going, 2001, 2003, what you're saying was notorious, dating back that far, and, my son used to say the kids were smoking pot down there on a continual basis, and, you know, that he knew for a fact, and, I don't know what other drugs were being used, but it was a known hangout
Yeah, 'cause you
for,
can hide
for,
around the corner.
and that's been something that, that's why when I told him that it was closed eventually, he says, "About time, Dad."
Yeah.
You know, I mean, that was just his comments, and he doesn't live in town anymore, but he just said, "About time, Dad."
Okay, is there any other comment?
Yeah, you're talking about after 3 o'clock, I mean, in April, I don't know when the sun goes down, there's plenty of time for and my contention is there shouldn't be a gate there at all. If for some reason you wanna have a gate there to block people from smoking pot, I mean,
That's not what the director said.
That's not it's not the only reason.
No, it was to
My contention
discourage
is,
any vehicles down there after.
I'm just simply saying, that's a public parking place, made for the public, paid for by public tax dollars, it should be accessible to the public.
And the question I have is, when is the parking lot accessible to the public?
April 1st through Thanksgiving typically. We may leave the gate open longer in the fall after Thanksgiving, if it's a particularly warm fall and there's no snow, no winter, and.
And
there's a
April
lot of
first
activity.
through Thanksgiving is primarily because of the weather and because of the use of the field.
Correct, yeah. Our sports runs through the beginning of November, sometimes up to Thanksgiving. So there's organized athletics through that time period. After that, the fields are officially closed in the winter. People can use them, to walk on them. Some kids will get together and, you know, hit a ball around, what have you, kick a ball around, that's fine. We try to minimize the damage to the fields by not having official games, and it's the winter, there's really nothing going on outside anyways. So I'm honestly, I'm neutral about this. If you're thinking about changing the policy, if the residents want that, the only thing I would request is that give the police the opportunity to speak on it, or at least inform you of their considerations. You know, could we leave the gate open longer? Well, we can't, unless we're talking about overtime or hiring somebody to lock it. Would the police be willing to lock it?
I guess, have there been any other complaints lodged in this regard?
Not that I'm aware of.
So one suggestion is, if you're concerned about people going down around this corner where you can't really see, after sunset maybe, if you wanna have the gate closed after sunset, that kinda makes sense, I suppose, if somebody's gonna be in charge of locking.
Well, I guess my question is, what's the inconvenience of using the parking lots on Field Road?
The upper part.
Which are not filled.
That's irrelevant.
It is not irrelevant.
This is
It's an
all
alternative.
public parking places.
It's an
You should be able to
alternative.
use the whole public parking places, not just some of the parking places some days out of the year, and the other parking places the other days out of the year, or some hours out of the day.
Well, you just heard there are some reasons why that gate is there and why it's locked.
Kids smoke pot once in a while.
He didn't
And
say that.
vandalism does increase.
It's the vandalism is the big issue.
What kind of vandalism?
Vehicle vandalism, people have driven on the fields, they break the locks and
How
drive.
do they get
into it.
through the,
There's access gates for maintenance and emergency with a padlock on it. You break the lock, open the gate
is
and
the
drive around.
vandalism documented?
Yes, and police records. We call the police anytime there's vandalism.
Does the vandalism happen during the day or only after 3 p.m.?
It's almost always at night.
Okay, so let's go back to the sunset rule. After when the sun sets.
But the logistics of doing that is somebody has to lock the gate.
I was just thinking, I think somebody works at the school, janitor or whatever.
In the high school, inside, the maintenance crew, the outside staff goes home at 2:30.
Can the high school janitor walk over to the gate at, I don't know, 8 o'clock and put the padlock on?
That's a question for the Board of Education and their union, and,
Big question.
you know, it's not really for the town to say. I don't know.
I guess I do have a few questions, but I guess my first question, number one, I'd like to say thank you for coming down. I think this is great to have this discussion, and that's really the purpose why we meet, and I would encourage more people to come down if they have concerns, and someone else actually called me about this, I think it was maybe posted on social media, and I actually got another phone call this afternoon from someone that had some concerns. I guess my first question would be, what specifically would your request be? What would you ask, what would you like to see?
I would love to see the gate removed,
Okay.
but at least open during daylight hours, I guess. at a
So,
minimum.
so the gate, this gate here that's marked on the map that says gate closes at 3 p.m. during winter
Yes.
season, that gate. So
Yes.
we're okay with the gates at the school,
Yeah, I've
for
never-
school safety and things, we're okay with those.
I'm not even thinking
It's
about
just this gate right here near the
Just
maintenance
that gate,
building.
yeah.
Okay.
Cause there's public parking right there near the tennis courts. So you can't use that between November and April apparently after 3 p.m. But I was down there the last few days and the gate's constantly locked during the day.
Were people on the courts at the time you were there?
No, there's snow all over the place.
So I guess my question
Yeah,
would
is
be
there-
then,
Is there snow always from November to April?
No, depends on the weather.
Okay.
so I guess my questions would be, number one, I mean, what happens to the gate on the weekend?
It's closed.
So it's closed from Friday 3 p.m. until Monday,
7:30, 8 o'clock.
okay, so it's closed all
On a
weekend.
typical weekend, yes.
Okay, does the town, and I apologize, I wasn't prepared for this tonight, typically I'd be prepared, but, does the town have an ordinance that prohibits, like, use of the park after dark, or trespassing after dark, or those types of things?
That I'm not aware of.
Okay, I mean, we should check that, again, I normally said I'd be prepared, I apologize, but I think that would be an interesting question to see, you know, use of the park and whether there's prohibitions.
Isn't there Connecticut statutes, I forget exactly what they're called, public use doctrines,
Public access?
public access doctrines, and public trust doctrines. I don't know if this pertains to any of that, but from what I read, if there's a public space that's owned and paid for by the public, it should be open to the public.
Well, that's not the point I'm making, I'm just asking the question,
Sure.
you know, are there alternative means? I mean, kind of if we're concerned about vandalism, or if we're concerned about kids loitering and things, I mean, a first step for the town also would be to pass an ordinance. I'm a retired police officer, I don't know if you know, so, you know, for the police to be able to patrol the park and say, hey, you're here after dark, we can take enforcement action, we can kick you out. You know, if we don't have that ordinance in place, you're not really trespassing. You know what I'm saying? I mean, there's really, you're at the park. You know, and sometimes they allow it, you know, if it's under the lights. Some people, I mean, to my knowledge, you're allowed to go into the parks anytime you want right now in summer, there's no ordinance. So I guess that's one of my questions. I guess my question would be, the gate's not locked in the summer, correct?
Correct.
I mean, to me, it would seem when the weather's nice, things that, you know, like drinking,
It does
vandalism,
make
things,
sense, yeah.
would increase in the summer and decrease in the winter.
But there's also increased use of organized sports as well as police presence and, coaches, supervisors are down there during these organized sports and games. So there's quite a bit of activity in the park,
Yeah.
including the high school fields. So the activity level is much greater and there's a lot more people down there.
That's my only contention, it's owned by the public, public parking, designed for public parking, it should be open to the public.
Okay, we'll research whether, well, I think we're gonna have to check with the Board of Education with regards to the school, whether they'd be able to control locking the,
And it seems to be arbitrary, like I just said, that the last couple of days, it's closed during the day. So this says closed after 3 p.m., but it's closed during the day, so.
Our practice has always been closed from Thanksgiving to April 1st regardless.
24/7?
Our,
Cause it says right
if
here.
we're there, the gate's open. I mean, it's not technically open to the public, but if the maintenance staff is going in and out, the gate has been open.
That doesn't make sense to me. Plus the sign there says
After
closes
3.
after 3 or something for winter.
Yeah, Eric was down there today, I saw him come out of there. You know, I saw him come out of that area that was locked, I saw him go right through today. So, you know, he obviously was down there and was doing whatever he does, so.
So there's some confusion, at least for me, when the sign says close after 3 and at 11 o'clock it's closed.
If nobody's been down there, nobody was there to open it.
Yeah, I mean, I guess my response would be, you know, I guess concerns like this I take very seriously, and I always think in my mind too, you know, weighing the public interest and, you know, the right to use the park as public land, taxpayer money paid for it, maintained by taxpayer money, you know, that's a very high standard.
Yes.
I guess the question would be, do we have a compelling government interest in town to limit access? You know, for instance, schools, you know, the public buildings are paid for by the town, you can't just walk into a school anytime you want, you know, same with town hall.
Yeah.
You know, so I guess that's something we need, and I'm glad you raised this, you know, I guess
issues of safety and vandalism.
Yeah.
we need to get more concerned, you know, so I
costs
guess,
to
you know,
repair
if
the
we reach out to the
vandalism, too.
superintendent, we reach out to, the police department, you know, and certainly if you know others, I know at least one reached out to me, you know, that'd like to come maybe at a future meeting, you know, we put it on the agenda, we notice it, and we have the discussion. You know, I think that may be a good course of action, because,
Yeah, as far as any other games, I'm just talking about this one game.
Okay,
That's it.
thank you for bringing it to our attention,
Yeah.
and,
So you'd be willing to compromise at Sunset?
Yeah, I mean.
Okay, I'm just trying to ask.
Can't really use the soccer field at night anyway, so.
Yeah,
I don't
so,
like to-
so you're looking for sunset would be the time that you're looking for? Yeah,
For a compromise, sure.
yeah, that sounds fair, you know?
okay, we'll investigate it. Thank you, Dave.
Sure.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, next on the agenda, executive session, we have none. We have no presentations by the first selectman this evening. On the consent agenda, we have, Allison Maynard, Director of Social Services.
I also wanted to speak.
Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, Allison, it was my fault. I just had, seen this, I believe it was in the patch, and I thought we should, invite this young lady, to, a selectmen's meeting. And, Rachel St. Germain is now a finalist for the prestigious Gatorade National Girls Cross Country Player of the Year Award. And, it says here that she was now named the, Connecticut Girls Cross Country Player of the Year. She's the first female runner from Summers to win this award in its 37-year history. That makes it pretty special. The award recognizes not only outstanding athletic excellence, but also high standards of academic achievement and exemplary character demonstrated on and off the field. Distinguishes St. Germain as Connecticut's best high school girls cross-country athlete. She's now a finalist for the award. And it just goes through and talks about her statistics, but I think we should,
What year is she in high school? Does it say that? Like,
I would have a guess that she's a senior, but I could be wrong. I don't know, I see her running all the time. I do, I do, I look at, I've seen this kid running all the time, so it's like, 'cause I used to run cross-country, so that's why I always recognize her. But I couldn't tell you whether she's a junior or a senior.
okay, good. Well, great, we'll, have her visit us, some meeting, and we can congratulate her.
Yeah, I think it'd be
Learn more
great.
about her.
Yeah,
Thank you.
yeah.
Allison?
Okay. Alright, good evening. You all were given,
Yeah,
Okay.
in the packet.
so in your packet, yeah, you have, the advisory board composition report. That is directly from the Department of Children and Families, who is now funding the Youth Services Bureau for summer, so as you may or may not know. Last July, we were awarded for the first time funding for our own Youth Services Bureau. For decades, the town of Summers funding was going to the town of Stafford. And so, the previous administration and I worked with, some of our representatives and a lobbyist to get Summers this money for the first time. So it's very exciting, and part of the requirement.
What are these funds again? Could you just
So it's for to establish our own Youth Services Bureau, which most towns across the state have, but we did not. So it's $22,000 and change that we can use for youth programming. And
Youth
that's-
Services Bureau,
Yep.
okay.
So we are now receiving that money, and one of the requirements is that we establish an advisory board, with members of the community, and this is the criteria from them. So it has to have 7 members, at least 1 member under the age of 21, who'd be a non-voting member, representatives from the school system, police department, youth serving agencies, and obviously, you know, there can't be a lot of people who have, a vested financial interest in it, so 50% of the income from, you know, they can't be receiving 50% of their income for delivering services to youth. And the last one is irrelevant, because that would be if you had a multiple a multi-town YSB.
Allison, I missed, how much money is this we're gonna receive?
So we're already receiving it.
How much about?
It's around 22,500.
Okay.
Actually, it just got increased slightly.
That's
Okay.
per year?
Per year.
Per year?
And
Yep.
we're funded for 2 years, and then we'll have to go through the grant application process again, but,
Okay.
certainly once you're funded and you're an established YSB, it's more of just a formality
Yeah.
to go through
Yeah.
applying it every 2 years.
So this is new funding.
This is brand new.
Okay, and so we never got this before, summers,
No.
okay,
Nope.
wow.
No, because it
No,
was
it's
going to
exciting.
Stafford instead of us, right?
Exactly, Stafford, and, you know, neither the current director in Stafford or myself know how that happened, it was in the nineties. So, it was a handshake and, but they have been using our.
Could it be that there was a state rep from Stafford for years at that time that represented our district? No,
Oh, I
you
don't
know.
know.
Yeah,
I've
I'm
never
just
heard
saying.
of it, but
Continue.
it was, so they would use our statistics. Now, in Stafford's defense, their YSP model is very different. It's actually very unique. It's one of only two in the state that runs like this, where they actually provide mental health services. And for many years, they had seen Summers residents at no cost at Stafford Family Services. And in the spring, I partnered with them to offer counseling services up there, and
Yeah.
then we transitioned back here to
Very
Summers.
nice.
But they've been a great partner, and they were 100% supportive of us lobbying to get this money back, for our town and our residents.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah.
So what action are you asking us for this evening?
So I'm asking to appoint the 8 members that you have, and then myself as the chair of the Youth Services Advisory Commission.
Mm-hmm.
No, Youth Services Advisory Board, sorry, not commission. And so all these individuals have agreed to, serve on the board, and you have in your packet their bios. I guess if you have any questions about them, I'm not gonna read.
No, it looks like, some very impressive people. They have some good backgrounds, and it'd be very good to be on your, in the advisory board.
I'm very excited about the individuals that have agreed to serve on. I think it's
Yeah.
it's a well-rounded group. You can see everybody comes from different places. I think they're all gonna offer a lot, and I was intentional in, who I spoke to about this, because I think that, I really wanna be challenged. We've never had this department before in town, and,
It looks like you got a
exciting
very,
opportunity.
very well, thought out group of people you put together here. Make a lot of sense. I read the bios and the backgrounds and know some of them individually. Let's see, I know that Selectman Meyer's got some issues that relate to whether or not we need an ordinance to create the Youth Services Advisory Board.
So I guess my question would be, you know, is this intended to be a permanent committee of the town going forward, not a temporary committee with an expiration date?
Correct, yeah, as long as we're
Okay.
receiving DCF funding, we need to have this Youth Services Advisory Board.
So I mean, pursuant to the charter, it requires an ordinance then, under section 523 of the charter. So I mean, I think my recommendation would be, you know, that we have, the director, draft an ordinance and bring it to the board for adoption. I mean, is there a time sensitivity to this? I mean, the problem with the ordinance is it takes like 5 to 6 weeks. I mean, luckily right now, we're meeting every week. So, you know, we're able to kind of accelerate the time frame a little bit. But, you know, we'll probably take, till March 1st or so to get an ordinance adopted? Is that acceptable?
Yeah, I mean,
Well,
we received the funding, I think the first was
I think we've
October.
received 2 now, I think.
Yeah,
I think
the
we've got
first,
2 of the 4 payments.
yeah. We
October and
weren't-
January maybe?
Pretty recent, the second one came
Now
in.
I gotta find out.
You know, we were the only.
Would it make sense to create an ad hoc Youth Services Advisory Board for the time being, to make sure that we're covered and
Yeah.
they can be indefinite?
Yeah.
We've done that before with other organizations that we've created, and therefore we wouldn't be violating the charter.
I have something to add to that, or a question anyway.
Go ahead.
If the committee has voting power, I agree with Bill, you need to have, it needs to be, an ordinance on that. But there are committees that are established with only recommendation power, and then the board of they report to the board of select, who then have the final vote. So I'm not sure if you're just creating a and further, if that committee is supposed to have voting power, then it's not gonna be able to have some of the people on it that have been put on it, because they're not residents of the town. So they can't really vote.
So what's the authority of the board that's being created here? That's what,
So they're an advisory board, so
yeah, so they're advisory, they don't have
So
any
they're only gonna make
operational.
recommendations, so I'm not sure if we need to to do, maybe we need a legal opinion on this? I mean, I'm not really sure.
I mean, it says appointed boards, but I mean, I guess my concern, I mean, number one, if there's no rush, if we can create an ordinance, I mean, ordinance makes it permanent, and we can make this, you know, so I mean, as far as the tenure, you know, the scope of the committee, you know, the staggering the terms of the members, you know, things like that to make this perpetual, so that there's not confusion, because unfortunately what happens in front of this board time and time again, historically, is that 5 years from now, nobody knows. Because there's no rules, nothing was written down, and they're trying to search through the minutes, and nobody remembers, and there's one line in the minutes, and then it becomes very ambiguous, and, you know, so I mean, if we have a comprehensive ordinance, just like these other committees that are established in the charter, and by ordinance, then we know, you know, it's a 3-year term, they're staggered terms, you know, 3 people are appointed every year, that way you don't have everyone expiring at the same time, and your committee's wiped out, you know, those types of things. It gives it a lot more power and teeth, as opposed to an ad hoc committee. So, I mean, my preference would be an ordinance, unless we need to rush. You know, if we need to move it forward tonight, we can create an ad hoc like it's suggested.
Can you get access to the money without having a committee?
Yeah, we already have received. So essentially, DCF knew we were a brand new YSP. I couldn't establish an advisory board. When I submitted the grant application, I didn't even know if they were gonna fund us, so I couldn't submit a list of advisory board members. So they essentially gave us a waiver, with no real hard deadline, but of course, we didn't find out until October we got funding, you know, so like, we really only had it, or we've known about it for 3 months. So I think it's completely acceptable if it takes another month, and, you know, the senior advisory committee, which I'm the, chair of, I know that's in the charter, so I would rather it have, like you said, teeth, you know, formalized. This is something that is in most towns' charters about a youth services bureau advisory, so I think that makes sense.
Yeah, so I think if we did an ad hoc, you know, get you rolling, and then you could come up with some language for the ordinance and have it approved, and then, you know, we can move it along.
Well, what was being said though is, maybe we don't need the ad hoc, committee, and we just go with a motion to establish an ordinance for the Youth Services Bureau Advisory Committee, Advisory Board.
Yep.
Yes, sir.
And then we can pass that this evening, and then we can pursue the ordinance.
Is that
We don't
okay?
have an ordinance yet, though, we'd have to actually pass the,
No, we're gonna, what I'd like to see is a motion to establish an ordinance
Create one.
supported by the Board of Selectmen here,
I mean, I guess my problem is.
which would create the Youth Services Bureau Advisory Board as requested.
I guess my problem, though, is that, I mean, I don't think we should draft an ordinance in 5 minutes, I mean, I think it should.
No, what I'm saying is, let's see it one more time. I'm asking that someone propose a motion to pursue an ordinance, to establish the Youth Services Bureau Advisory Board, and with the support of the Board of Selectmen, so we can get this moving.
Okay, so a motion to request the Director of Youth and Social Services draft an ordinance to present to the Board of Selectmen to establish this committee.
Yeah,
Okay, so I'll make
Good.
that motion, make a motion that the Board of Selectmen request the Director of Youth and Social Services to draft an ordinance for the Board's consideration, regarding the establishment of a Youth Advisory Board for the town of Summers.
yeah, I second that.
Any further discussion? All those in support of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Next on the agenda, updates from boards and commissions. Do we have any, additional information?
Well, there's opportunity to add agenda items.
Oh, that's right. Opportunity to add agenda item, there we go.
I had a couple items to add tonight.
Yeah.
Number one, I'd like to, given that the Board of Finance Tuesday night, approved an appropriation for severance payouts, I'd like to, add to our agenda, setting a date for a public hearing, for a town meeting, to make that appropriation.
Language, read it.
Yeah, so the legal notice, would go out on the 31st.
Well,
We're
I'm
gonna
just
add it to
making-
the agenda first
I'm
of
just
all.
making the motion to add it to the agenda of the meeting, and then we'll take it up in the order that the first selectman
Second
calls it.
motion. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah.
Second.
Okay, any further discussion on the motion to add an agenda item that relates to setting a date for a town meeting? All those in support say aye.
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 Okay, we've got the agenda item added,
Okay, I have one more agenda item.
okay?
So I'd like to make a motion that we add it to the agenda, discussion and possible action, regarding a request for information from members of the Board of Selectmen to town employees.
Discussion and possible action for what?
Regarding requests for information from members of the Board of Selectmen to town employees. This is the action, this is what I had submitted on Monday in the request,
Mm-hmm.
to add to the agenda.
Yeah, you have this one right here, yeah.
Because he wanted us to consider the language that you submitted,
Yeah, that I
earlier
sent
in
by
the week.
email, yep.
Yeah.
So that's, I'm just
Okay.
asking to add it to the agenda
Okay.
tonight, 'cause it wasn't on there.
Yeah, I'll second that.
Any further discussion? All those in support of that, motion say aye.
Aye.
We have two agenda items added, great,
Okay, that's all I have.
okay? So with regards to the first one, setting a date for the, town meeting to, you wanna discuss that? You've got the information. Jim?
I have the legal notice right here. I was proposing to have the legal notice published on January 31st. And propose the town meeting be that, following February 7, 8, or 9, or 10. So it's Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday.
February, what was the date, what were the dates?
7th, 8th, or 9th?
7, 8, 9, and 10
Yeah.
are the dates. Thursday, we have a board of selectmen meeting, but, so either.
If it's the tenth, you have to wait till February first to post the
That's
legal
right.
notice.
Yeah.
So it, so it,
So 7, 8, 9.
so it could be the 9th, which would be the same day as our Board of Selectmen meeting.
Yep.
Ninth is a Wednesday, right?
9th is a
Yeah, 10th.
Wednesday, 'cause I know, 'cause I
10th,
got a,
okay,
I had a
10th,
UConn
all right.
basketball game at that,
10th,
okay.
all right.
The 10th
10th
would
is
probably be the
Thursday.
best.
Gotta get our priorities straight, you know,
Well,
UConn
the
women.
10th,
Does
because
that
I'm
make
already
sense
here.
to everybody? 10th makes sense to me, so
Yeah.
February 10th?
Yeah.
February
Okay.
10th.
Yeah, that's,
Send the legal
Got
notice for
consensus
posting
on
on
that.
February first.
February 1st.
Well, then what we'll do is
That'd be
we'll
a town
set the
meeting.
town meeting for 6
Town
PM.
meeting?
Yeah.
And then we'll notice the Board of Selectmen meeting to immediately follow the town meeting.
Okay, that's what I was.
And that way we don't put a time on it, we
That's
just say
what I was
immediately
thinking.
following the town
Okay,
meeting.
I
Yep.
like
Yeah.
that.
And when would it start? 5?
6
No,
o'clock.
it starts 6 o'clock.
6
in the
o'clock?
Board of
Does
Selectmen.
that change,
Once you
Meeting
change
is-
the starting time, it's not a
All
regular
right.
meeting.
Good.
yeah, I think that changes it to a special meeting regardless.
If it says immediately following,
I've done that in the past and never got flack for it, so.
I did it once.
What if we
and-
had the town meeting at 5:30?
That'd be fine.
If you did it at 5:30 and then your
Let's-
regular
let's-
meeting at 6.
I think.
Thank you, Allison.
I think I got dinged on that one time.
Did you? I never have, so.
Okay,
well, the only
so-
concern, I think, is that people are gonna say they can't get home from work in time, and, so maybe we do it after, maybe we do the special town meeting at 7. You know, following the meeting, the scheduled meeting, you know, we say the special town meeting will be at 7 PM.
That's.
And then
okay.
worst case, we could recess the board meeting to hold the special town meeting,
Recess and
Okay,
then
I
recess.
and
like
then we
that
can
better.
reconvene. So maybe we notice it at 7, just
Okay,
to
I
give
like that
people
better.
time to,
Okay,
Okay.
so special town meeting at 7 on the 10th.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
I just know if we do it too early that,
No.
Oh, I've always thought this meeting starts too early anyway, so that sounds good to me. No, I'm serious, 'cause, you know, people don't get home. They're not even in town.
Not really.
It helps you out, I understand that, Todd. So we'll keep it in mind for you, Todd.
I did send an email about another meeting for the 3rd, at 5.
yeah, let me just see that.
Yeah, oh, yeah, I don't know if I got that, maybe I missed it. When did you send it
Well, I'm
out?
asking you now, so.
Oh, okay, good, you sent it
So
out.
the 3rd, like 5 PM?
That's
Yeah,
right.
that was the one,
That's
5,
fine,
yeah, the 3rd,
yeah.
5 PM,
All
yeah,
right, well,
that's, yeah,
I
that,
just wanna
confirmed,
respond
yep.
to everybody, so,
Makes sense. I know it's hard to coordinate all the schedules.
yeah.
yeah, it is tough.
Thank you very
Here,
much.
let me just double check my small brain here.
That's okay, 5 PM on the 3rd.
Yeah, I think that
So that gives
sounds
you an hour
good.
before the next Board of Selectmen meeting.
Yeah, so, let's see. Oh, okay, so February 3rd at 5 PM, you said?
Yes.
Okay, 'cause I said Tuesday'd be okay at 5, but you wanna go to Thursday at 5,
That's
okay.
the 3rd, and I'll remind you, so don't worry.
Okay, well, I'll write it down.
I'll send out a confirmation email.
Yeah, you gotta help the handicapped here.
No, I understand.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, everybody.
Okay, we got that established, okay?
And that's gonna be
So-
with the,
Attorney.
labor attorney, yeah.
You've got that down,
Yeah, thank you.
good. Thursday, at what time?
Five PM, yep, 5 PM.
5 to 6, okay, great. Great, okay, the second agenda item, turn it over to Selectman Meyer.
Okay, thank you.
Do you wanna read your language, by the way? for
Yeah, absolutely.
discussion?
I had some concerns regarding the ability of selectmen to, directly request unfiltered information, from, directors, regarding town operations. So I drafted a proposed policy for the board to consider, and it's titled Information Request by Members of the Board of Selectmen to Town Employees. And the Summers Board of Selectmen values transparency, collaboration, and unity of effort. In order to allow Board of Selectmen members the opportunity to gather information essential to their role, board members may contact directors, and in some cases other town staff, to gather information about town department operations and make requests for information. Directors are expected to cooperate and provide information requested in a timely manner. If the director has concerns regarding a request, the director can notify the first selectman, who can determine if the request should be brought to the Board of Selectmen for review. And this policy will not be interpreted to limit or constrain the duties and responsibilities of the Board of Selectmen and the first selectman contained in the town charter and Connecticut general statutes.
Okay. I've looked into this matter and, also spoke to the town attorney and, believe that the language would, violate the town charter, which, basically states that in section 4.2, that the first selectman shall be the chief executive and administrative officer of the town, and shall have the powers and duties of the first selectman prescribed by the general statutes and by this charter. And I checked with the general statutes. The general statutes don't provide anything that the charter does not already provide.
Yeah, I read them this morning.
There's nothing else there. He should be responsible to the Board of Selectmen for the administration of agencies under the direct supervision of the board, and shall execute or cause to be executed town ordinances, regulations, or resolutions voted by the Board of Selectmen. The concern here is that, and we have talked about this briefly before, is that with individual selectmen approaching town employees and or directors in the workplace or any other place, it sort of creates a very awkward situation for the employee. Because the employee, the way the employee understands it is the employee works for the town administration. And the CEO and chief administrative officer of that administration is the first selectman. So you've got an individual selectman asking an employee questions, and they're sort of put into this awkward situation of, number one, their work may be being disrupted. There's immediate confusion as to chain of command, and causing further discomfort. There are possibilities, this opens up for possibilities of harassment of employees, and leads to micromanagement of those employees. And interference like this can lead to a claim by an employee of creating a hostile work environment, which may be a catalyst for unionization. So there are many concerns here, and I understand the value of transparency, collaboration, and unity of effort, but there also is, and has been for many years, the opportunity for selectmen to gain information from the first selectman, to get questions answered, information provided. The first selectman reports to the Board of Selectmen and can provide whatever information is requested.
Well, it's very interesting, because you refer to the town charter here, and under the Board of Selectmen, it says here that it says keeping under review the present and future needs of the town. And I don't think that in my dealings with any of the folks sitting in this room, that I feel like that they felt threatened in any way. And talking to several of the town employees, they've been more than willing to give me information. I mean, Mr. Rowland generously sat down with me for probably 45 minutes to go over his budget, to explain it to me. It was really very, very beneficial. Just today, I had Mr. Marinaccio was very kind. I asked him for a copy of the, Town of Summers Employees Pension Plan. He sent it out. Kim, gave me a copy of it so I could read it, so I'd be a little prepared for the meeting. There's been very many instances where people have helped me do these things and helped me be an educated person, so when I come to the meetings, I understand what's happening. And I'm never out threatening anybody, I'm never trying to intimidate anybody. If somebody is upset with me, I've apologized. I've tried to be as kind as possible and when requesting all this information. I think it's my job. I think it's clearly described here that this is my job in the town charter, that I'm supposed to do this, that I'm responsible for this. It says here I'm responsible for coordinating these activities of all the town agencies. I don't know. To me, it says quite clearly that I'm responsible for doing these things. And from the conversations that I've had with, as I said, with every single town employee, I've asked them, as I said, are you busy? And if they tell me to get out, and they tell me to go away. They tell me they don't have the time. And, you know, they've made it very clear that they don't. And that's why I arranged time with Mr. Rowland, so it fit his schedule. And he's a very busy guy, I know. And same way when I talk to Chief Roche, or I've talked to, you know, Allison Maynard, I've always arranged the time to talk to these folks and never tried to take away from them doing their job. And they've just been really exceedingly understanding. And they've helped me and they've educated me to things that I had no idea what was going on.
Well, I can already say that, again, these employees are not gonna object to a selectman walking into their office and say, hey, what are you doing here? I'm busy. That's just not
They
gonna,
did say
that's
that.
just not
We've
gonna,
had people say that.
it's just not gonna happen. And I know for a fact that it has been disruptive. It has raised questions about, hey, who's in charge here? And has put the employees in a difficult situation where they're trying to do their job and at the same time answer your questions.
Well, it clearly says that we are all three are in charge, Tim.
All right, what I'd like to ask the town attorney to comment on this language that's been proposed and to have him define what are the responsibilities of the first selectman and how is the charter language interpreted.
Well, I have to say I'm very concerned about that, because why we have to have somebody else interpret what seems to be fairly clear.
Well, because I can tell you, I believe, being an attorney, that what you're proposing violates the charter.
What specific, I mean.
The charter is the CEO and CAO of the town. That is, nothing clearer than that. And it basically, we're talking about chain of command, who has direct authority over town employees.
So I think we've established, I mean, state statute, I've researched this considerably. I mean, the chief executive officer can declare an emergency. The chief executive officer is the one who serves legal process on behalf of the town. They can appoint a municipal director for seniors. They have a few things. But, you know, under our charter, I've looked at many charters, the executive authority for the administration of the town is vested in the Board of Selectmen. And the first selectman, very clearly in section A here, works under the direction of the Board of Selectmen. And it says right here in plain language, that responsible for the administration of agencies under the direct supervision of the board. And then it further says in section 4.3, the Board of Selectmen shall generally supervise the administration of the affairs of the town, except for those things that are supervised by the Board of Education. And then it's also the Board of Selectmen generally be responsible for coordinating the activities of the agencies of the town. And really the job of the first selectman, I think, is to execute the regulations, the procedures, the ordinances, and things enacted by the board. I think that, you know, the day-to-day, as far as supervision goes, does fall to the first selectman as the chief executive. But I don't think, you know, as far as the ability to hire and fire employees, the ability to evaluate employees, the ability to determine their compensation, the ability to enter into contracts, to create policies, all those functions are reserved for the board. And the board may choose to delegate that authority, but the board has the right, under the charter, and that authority. So I think very clearly, I mean, nothing that I've heard sounds like a legal violation. I mean, work disruption, confusion, harassment, micromanagement, hostile work environment. I mean, directors aren't eligible to unionize under MIRA because they're direct reports to, the first selectman, so I mean, they're typically excluded from, I mean, and even if they wanna unionize, I mean, that's their right, and if they were eligible, I wouldn't oppose it, I just haven't heard anything.
It might not be in the best interest of the town, even though you may not oppose it.
Well, that's a different, what I'm saying, I mean, things that are in the best interest, I mean, that's an opinion as opposed to a fact. I mean, I'm talking legally, and I also distinguish information from direction. So, I mean, I think it's very clear that an individual member of the board cannot give a direction, to a town employee, other than the first selectman, as long as the first selectman acts in compliance with directives of the board. So I don't think that, I think the wording written here is very clear that this pertains to information. You know, I think clearly there's some things off
Okay.
limits, and I think that, you know, as intelligent, well, I'm
I'd
not
like
done
to-
yet.
Okay, go ahead.
I think that it's pretty clear here that, you know, it's information, and I think there's certainly things off limits. I mean, specific employee situations regarding ADA accommodations, or, you know, things like that should be handled by town human resources. You know, and that's the provision that says if a director has a concern, if they feel something's crossed over the line, they can raise that concern. There's an avenue there. You know, directors are senior officials in the town. They're expected to be able to interact with not only elected officials, also our residents. I mean, really the way how I feel under what's transpired is that I have less access, under the proposal to a town employee than a member of the public does. You know, and that a member of the public could walk in and ask questions, but a member of the board can't.
Yeah.
So I don't need access to filtered information. I need access to accurate information so that I can make my decisions. And, you know, by pushing it through a filter, it's biased. You know, and people control the way a question's asked, the way a question's phrased, the way a response is received, what portion of the response is given, maybe not the entire response. You know, I would like to be able, if I have a question about sidewalks, I wanna be able to talk to our public works director and have a conversation about sidewalks. And he doesn't necessarily need to come in every meeting, because we may be able to resolve the question.
Okay, I think we can resolve this with the town attorney commenting on it, if,
Well-
and we'll, until we do get comment,
I don't really think we really need to go to the town attorney, and I think this is a fine, you know, draft that he's had, and I think we should vote on it.
I think.
And
I mean,
think
I'm
it's-
fine with it as well.
I think I hear what you guys are saying, but I'm not gonna allow you to vote on something that,
Well, how
to
do
me,
you have the
it's
authority to stop people from voting?
you wanna vote, go ahead, let's
Well,
go.
what's the
Let's go
violation
ahead,
of the
let's make the
charter?
motion.
Well, what's the violation of the
The
charter?
violation of the charter is that this disrupts the appointment of the first selectman as the chief executive officer and chief administrative officer of the town, period.
So asking for information, now not direction, notice direction is not in this language. So asking for information, like, you know, how many miles of road did we pave this summer, that violates the charter.
Well, let me
There are other ways to get that information. I mean, I'm not blocking you from getting the information, I'm just saying there's a certain procedure that you need to go through to get that information.
What
Where
would
does
that
it state
procedure
that?
be?
Where does it state that?
What would the
Okay,
procedure be?
okay, we will get an opinion from the town attorney. You guys wanna vote against that, and
Okay, so I'd like to make a motion.
go ahead.
Okay, so I'd like to move, that we, enact, the, proposed policy, regarding information requests by members of the Board of Selectmen to town employees, and that the distribution and execution of the policy be held in abeyance until a, consultation is made with the town attorney. And I would like to authorize, Selectman Schmidt on behalf of the board, to contact the town attorney and to request an opinion in writing, that will be provided to the board, citing specific concerns, regarding the charter, and conflicts, that exist between the policy and the charter. And such report shall be delivered, no later than, February 15th of 2022.
Why is it necessary to, go ahead, you want to second that?
I'll be happy to second. I just know,
Okay.
Mr. Meyer, I didn't know why I needed to be the one to contact the attorney.
Well, I think the question is, and the concern is that there's clearly a I think there's a little bit of a concern as far as, you know, the communication with the town attorney. I mean, I'd like to make sure that it's done as transparently as possible.
I hear you.
I'm okay with any members of the board doing it.
Yeah.
I think that there's no reason, you know, that it has to be the first selectman. I think the second or third selectman could do it. I mean, I think it's important that it's done in writing and that, you know, the board can be copied on it. I mean, we certainly are not gonna have a discussion, but as far as distributing the information, that will not violate FOIA. It's just a matter of board members can't discuss things outside of the meeting. So I think any communication from the town attorney, you know, should be distributed to the entire board, because I wanna make sure that we get a true opinion, and, you know, that we get I mean, I don't see any conflict between the proposal and the,
Well, I just think it's inappropriate to appoint one of the Board of Selectmen to contact the town attorney when it's normally the first selectman that deals with the town attorney.
well, I
I
think
think that further discolors your whole proposal.
well, I think that the town attorney works for the board. I mean, we can,
I'm
Yeah.
just telling you my thoughts, and, you know, you wanna pursue, go ahead with this, go right ahead and vote on it.
okay. I mean, I don't,
You wanna reiterate your motion?
I don't see, I mean,
I'm-
what's your preference as far as, handling the opinion?
Well, I understand what you're saying about it. Since you're the second selectman, I would like to see you actually make the contact, to be honest with you.
Okay,
I'm serious, but
Okay.
I think that's a great idea, and I
Okay.
understand why you proposed it, but I think since you're the second guy in
Okay.
command,
okay.
I would vote for that right now and say yes.
Okay, so then the motion is to adopt the proposed policy, but to hold the execution and distribution of the policy in abeyance until such time the board is able to, receive a written opinion from the town attorney, regarding the, legality of such policy. And the second selectman, myself, will contact the town attorney in writing, to receive an opinion in writing, regarding this, no later than February 15th, and report back to the full board.
So you're saying until the town attorney endorses this language?
Not
is that what you're
endorses, he does not create policy for the board,
Yeah, he doesn't have to endorse anything.
but I'd like to just see his
saying?
opinion
You
in
want his
specific,
you want his comments on the language, is that what you're asking for?
on the language, you know, I don't want, I mean, I think it's the board's decision as far as what's good government, I think it's the board's decision as far as what's good policy, I think as far as process and who has the authority to ask questions of directors, I'd like his opinion on that matter. I think that's the narrow question, you know, before the town attorney is, you know, does, on its face, any part of this policy conflict directly with the charter?
Yeah, I think that's very clear. Thank
Yeah.
you. I'd be happy to second the motion.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye,
Aye.
All those noes, no.
okay,
Very good.
thank you.
All right, what's next on the agenda here? Finance report.
Yes, I'm not sure where if this is down further or if it's, I'm circling back with the language for the pension,
Oh, I put it under pending business, sorry, Mike.
that's under pending.
Yeah.
Yeah,
because
it's down below.
tabled last time, so I put it under pending.
Other than that, we've got a Board of Finance meeting, the Board of Finance has voted to voted for an appropriation, which then you know about because you scheduled a town meeting. They've also requested that an audit be done, of certain timesheets, et cetera, so we're working on the scope of that right now. We're contacting, accountants about that, so.
Could we just have some detail about, I kind of watched the Board of Finance when they talked about it the other night, just explain exactly what they're asking.
You want me to reiterate what you heard them say?
Well, to be quite honest with you, I was doing something else at the time, you know, I wasn't being a good student.
Okay.
And I was involved with something else in the house, and so I was running in here, and I was running back and watching, and then I never went back. And then what I did was I called somebody on the Board of Finance, and they said this is what happened, and similar to you, but I just wanted to, you know, just, what exactly is it? You know, I was kind of delinquent on that,
Well,
you
there
know.
was a motion they voted on.
Okay, go ahead.
And I can probably only paraphrase it unless Brian can actually bring it up.
I'll bring it
And
up for you.
Brian can bring it up and
Yeah, you
read
can help the
to you
handicap meeting,
exactly.
sorry, Brian.
No, not a problem, give me a minute.
So I'd rather him do that than me trying to interpret.
Well, that's my problem
Because it is a
too.
very lengthy motion.
Yeah, that was really my problem, I
Yeah.
have to be honest with you, I said I didn't think I could recreate it accurately, I
Yeah.
guess.
Yeah.
Alright, so, the motion was for the Board of Finance to appropriate the full amount of the compensatory, benefits payout, $130,056.15 from the general fund into the retirement fund sub-account for the following individuals: Ann Logan, Bud Noor, Marie Karen, and Steve Jacobs. It being the recommendation of the Board of Finance that all 4 former employees be paid in full, but that in all events, the former salaried employees be paid without delay. It is further ordered that there shall be an independent audit of the facts and circumstances related to the decision of the Selectmen to refuse to pay compensatory benefits as claimed by the former First Selectman Bud Noor relating to unused sick time. The independent auditors shall be selected by the Chief Financial Officer and confirmed by the Board of Finance. The auditors shall be authorized to engage and rely upon the opinions of independent legal counsel or of governmental agencies having expertise in the subject matter. Any individual whose claim is not to be substantiated in full by the audit shall have an opportunity to deliver any evidence or other information to the auditors for their consideration prior to the filing of their final report. Any final payout recommended by the audit shall be effected subject to review by the Board of Selectmen with notice to the Board of Finance.
So,
Thank you, 'cause
That was a
I,
lot of work.
Sorry.
That's why you needed to have that
Sorry.
read.
that's why I didn't remember it, very clearly, to be honest with you.
you know, I did go to parochial school and memorize a lot of prayers, but that's quite long.
Well said.
Yeah.
Okay, with
So I
regard,
have reached out and I have phone meetings set up next week for discussions on audits and scope, so.
with regards to the town meeting though, what is, being proposed?
Well, I have the amount, the full amount, right, I'm putting
Full
in the
amount?
legal
Yes,
notice?
full
That's the amount
amount
that
being-
they've appropriated.
Yep, they've appropriated that amount, so that's what's at vote,
So I need to know that going forward. I have 130,
056.
yeah,
What's the rest of the language you have, Kim?
It's just, oh, excuse me, hold on. It's a special town meeting will be held at the Summers Town Hall, 600 Main Street, Summers, Connecticut, on Thursday, February 10th, 2022, beginning at 7 p.m. 1, elect a moderator. 2, to vote on appropriation of 130,056 from the general fund for separation. Adjournment, dated this day, today. The Board of Selectmen, and the publication date will be February 1st, 2022.
I would change part of that.
Okay.
So the appropriation is to fund the separation benefits payout fund. It's not specifically just for separation, it's to fund that fund, and which time then people would be paid out from that
Right,
fund.
so it goes
Subject-
into the fund and then
Right,
Subject-
so by ordinance, we're supposed to
Subject
fund
to
that fund.
approval of the Board of
That
Selectmen.
is correct.
Correct.
That is
That's what's
correct.
important
Correct.
language to
The
include.
purpose of that meeting is to approve the appropriation of money to go into a separation payout fund.
Okay.
That money could stay there forever,
right,
until the selectmen
Until
say,
the selectmen
pay X,
authorize the
pay
payment.
Y, pay Z,
right,
this amount.
and that's
Based on
why the
Based on
arbiter
the
is,
ordinance that was passed
Yeah.
by the Board of Selectmen, after public hearing.
So it's gonna go into the separation fund,
Yep.
not the, okay.
yeah,
So you wanna reread the language?
So to vote
or
on
read-
the appropriation of 130,056 from the general fund for separate, to
Fund.
to fund, okay, stand by for a second.
For the transfer,
Everybody was
let me use the
talking.
word to
no,
transfer
it's
too.
tough to get it
You
done.
can-
Essentially a
I
transfer
know.
from the general fund to the,
To fund the separation fund.
Separation
Right?
payout fund.
I don't think it's a fund, I think it's a transfer, I think we should word it as a transfer, right, Mike?
Well, it's its own separate fund.
It is
It's
a
fund
separate fund.
created by the
Transfer
Board of
from the
Finance.
general fund to this separate fund.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
But is a fund you transfer in from other funds.
You do transfer in from another fund. The appropriation is
To make a fund transfer
make
essentially
a
from
fund
the general
transfer.
fund to a restricted
separate,
fund
yep.
established by an ordinance.
yep.
Yep.
And as I said in the original meeting, at the original time, it's just a financial move.
Mhm.
And, I know people get into names, but the only reason why we're using those names is to get an estimate as to what the dollar amount needed to be, so. The circumstances under whether or not people are eligible for that is up to the selectmen to decide.
Mhm.
So this restricted fund, is it accurate to say it was established by ordinance?
It was.
Sure was.
Okay.
And I think at the time of the original town meeting, the ordinance had not been established, and that was some of
So
the
this would be an
concern.
appropriation to
And
transfer
people said they were uncomfortable.
X amount of
Exactly.
money from the general fund to a restricted fund established by an ordinance.
Yeah, cause I remember when we had that
And name
meeting in October, you know, that's when we had the
Right.
meeting,
Yeah.
and this had not been created yet, and then it was been
The
created
ordinance
since.
talks about how you move money into the fund.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Who has custody of the fund, how
Right.
you move money out of the fund.
It's a good ordinance, yeah,
Yeah.
so I think that, yep.
So I think though, it is important though to remind people in the notice that
Okay.
this is, money would go into the fund to be, appropriated only with the approval of the Board of Selectmen, is that
Yeah,
correct?
that's, people need to know that, yeah, it's gotta be clear.
I don't know, do we put that in the notice though, or is that
I
just
don't think-
discussed at the meeting?
I
I think the
think
legal
you have
notice
the
is only
meeting.
to discuss the
meeting.
appropriation.
That's
I have to
correct.
pay for
Yeah.
it more
It's just the
anyway.
appropriation.
Yeah, the
You
legal
have to pay
notice
for
is
every
just to
word.
notice the proposed appropriation,
Yeah.
fund transfer, and then at the meeting, part of the presentation would be
Okay,
the specific.
I mean,
I
you're
do.
you're following charter and state statute,
Exactly.
and where you need to have in a town meeting, the form of government, selectmen town meeting, you need to have the approval of the town meeting to move the money. There's no other business in front of the town meeting, other
Right.
than, are you gonna move the money, or are you not gonna
Yep.
move the money?
Correct.
Say yes or no.
Yep,
Correct.
I think so.
so
exactly,
we wanna keep it as simple as possible.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
Okay.
that's it.
Right, I got it.
Did we do the transfer?
So we're still on pending business, is that right?
Now you're on finance.
We're on finance, we gotta do
got,
this up here,
scheduled
finance.
payments, unless
Okay,
somebody has anything
scheduled
else.
payments.
No, I don't.
Looked fine to me.
And Mahoney Sable has the payment for the audit,
Yep,
and that's the full payment?
that's the final payment.
I had a question about, on page 2, it's listed as North Central about, two-thirds of the way down.
Yep.
And that apparently is to fund, it's probably North Central Inland Wetlands, Commission, to fund Joanne Shapiro's, it's what, half of her,
Yeah, they bill us twice a year, that's, the second half of the year payment.
half of her compensation.
So what's that arrangement? I'm not aware of that.
She works for North Central, Environmental or whoever they are, I'm not sure exactly.
It's a wetlands, I think, commission
Yeah.
set up by the
She's
DEEP.
the wetlands
She's,
agent for the town.
comes to the town of Summers, she's the wetlands agent for the town of Summers, she comes here twice a week for four or 5 hours a day.
And she works in the land use,
Yeah, she works,
department.
has
And we pay the company she works for, she's like a 1099 consultant type arrangement.
I
through the
think they
company.
pay her an hourly wage, cause I think she does it
Okay.
for more towns.
So we pay them as a service
We
then?
just pay them as a service fee,
Okay.
right?
And we have a contract with them?
You're asking the wrong person now.
Okay, can we research that and just verify whether or not we have a contract?
Alright.
Okay. I'm just curious if we have a contract, okay.
I know they annually request a 2 or 3% increase to the cost.
Kim, that's probably more a question for you, but,
What's that?
sorry, the, North Central, the wetlands agent, my question was, do we have a contract? You don't have to answer now if you need to research it.
I do.
We do have a
Are you
contract?
talking about Joanna Shapiro?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, okay, I believe so, yes.
Okay, if
I
you
think
do,
it's
could you
in the
forward
town.
it to us? Yeah, please.
Absolutely,
Thank you.
no problem.
And I also asked about the last item on the list, which just says University of Connecticut, and I understand that's for, plow training for town employees.
Yeah, for,
Who's that with?
defensive driving under
North
operations.
I'm not sure what Brian knows, I'm not sure what it's called. North Central what?
I don't know. They just,
I just always forget, I was confused.
I just have North Central is all I have in my.
Okay, I know that.
That's what it is in my account.
I'm sure there's an
payable.
invoice upstairs or
There is.
something that,
There
yeah.
might be, it might have more information on the
Yeah.
invoice itself.
Alright.
Okay,
No problem,
no problem.
I'll get that to you.
It's just, I'm asking, cause I know
One day I'll
land
have
use
fancy
is,
software that I can
Yeah.
look at the invoice on my computer, and just go like, oh, here's the answer to your question.
but I mean,
It's
land
coming,
use
it's
is one of the things kind of at the
Hopefully
front
it's coming,
burner
right?
for us, and I wanted
Yeah.
to see the landscape where things are,
Yep.
Sure.
what contracts exist, so that when we evaluate it, we kinda know all the pieces.
Yep.
Yeah,
So, but I don't know how,
Okay.
how we handle it.
very
so.
good.
We need to sign the I'll make a motion to approve the appropriation to the amount of $90,521.96.
Second?
Any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes.
The same. Yeah. Same. That one doesn't matter which one we sign, I guess.
Okay, so we're on to, updates from boards and commissions. I don't believe we have anything in that area to discuss this evening. Next item on the agenda is pending business. Discussion and possible action on approving the recommended vendor for police body cameras and other equipment. We're still awaiting
Kim's been.
Kim, you
some
wanna just
family
relate-
issues,
what the details are and what we're waiting for.
Well, just like before, she went out with COVID and came back and.
This is
she's
Kim
had-
Luddy you're talking about.
Yeah, Kim Luddy, she's had some family issues and been out, so, I'll follow up with her again about that, but.
This has been on our agenda, I think, for
Yeah,
four
it has,
different,
sir, yeah.
different
Yeah.
I think that what they
meetings.
have the numbers, it's just, I think the taser thing, they were waiting on additional stuff, so,
Okay.
that was requested, so. I think they have everything, it should be upcoming very soon,
Yeah.
so I apologize.
Okay, next item is, discussion and possible action on town staffing regarding reorganization of the sanitarian, town engineer, and land use department. I don't think we have anything in that area this evening either.
Do we have a time schedule for the, director to come in and present? I know we had talked about it previously.
We're waiting for him to get back to us with,
Yeah. Andrea reached out to Luigi Sartori, and, they're working on a
This week.
date,
Okay.
come to one of the board of selectmen.
Oh, that would be great, that'd be super.
To provide information.
Yep.
I saw a
yeah,
truck here that,
that's the plan. I asked him to, come in and speak to the board.
Yeah.
He's coming
Great.
up with a date.
Perfect.
I saw a truck here in the parking lot today from Stafford, was it, was it?
That's the building official?
Yeah, that's what I figured, yeah,
Yeah.
that was nice to see.
Yeah.
So the next item on the agenda is the pension plan amendment. Mike, can we talk about that?
Okay. Here, I'm passing this out.
I see.
Oh, I
So
think
there is,
I put them in
there's
the packet.
Oh, they're in the packet here.
There it
Yeah.
well, there's
Yeah.
two versions
Oh,
there.
sorry,
There's a
Mike.
clean version and a red line version, so.
Okay, okay.
I didn't get that
This
one.
is the
Yeah,
clean
yeah.
version, okay.
The red line
Clean
version is the
the
easiest
first
one to
page, the
work
More
red
with.
line is
helpful, yeah.
behind it.
Yeah, the red line was easy for me to see, thank you,
Yeah.
it's easier to work
Yeah,
off.
definitely, agreed.
So, I'm assuming I didn't get any other, I got positive comments on the red line, so I just printed up a clean one so that it didn't look so cluttered.
Easy to read. Thank you.
Yep.
No, and again, Mike, I'd really like, thank you for, cause I didn't even know it existed, cause about the employee pension plan, thank
Yeah.
you. That was very kind of you to sit down and Jim to copy it for me. Cause I didn't even know, and you were telling me things that I was just completely clueless on.
No, thank you, I did get the full copy, I was able to review it as well, thank you for that. So I guess my questions would be, has this been reviewed and approved by the pension board and also the attorney, the, proposed changes?
Well, the pension board has reviewed the language as it relates to selectmen. Their next meeting isn't for 3 more months, so they didn't have any problem with it.
They were in support of it
They
in
were
their
in
last meeting.
I mean, I guess my question is, do we need their approval?
No.
Okay, cause I know we had a director come in previously with another pension and said that we did need the approval of the pension board prior to us making it. Could I propose any changes?
The selectmen have the final word of any pension change. I think it's more as a courtesy, we let them know any changes that are occurring.
Yeah, that was pretty clear in this document.
I think it's very clear in the document.
Yeah, that we have the final
Yeah,
approval.
they're aware of an amendment, and then there's just this one sentence, would just be here, in that amendment, and we've tweaked it to include elected officials, not just the selectmen, so I'm sure that's not gonna.
Well, I just wanted to be clear, 'cause I mean, a month ago I had proposed doing this same thing to the other pension plan that's worded the same way, and I was told by the director I couldn't do it. They need to go to the pension board before we can make a change, but apparently that's not the case.
Director of whom?
The fire department. We put it in writing, actually, and we discussed it at the meeting, that, you know, that we had to either say yes or no. I think it was worded exactly, that the
Really?
board can only vote yes or no on the
Well,
pension
that
board.
I've ever said that.
You never said that, I said the fire chief, 'cause he asked which director, and you put
Maybe
that in writing.
misinterpreted what we were saying.
I think it was clearly misinterpreted.
Yeah, it's,
I didn't misinterpret, I think maybe the director, it was put in writing.
yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree, I think it's in black and white, that we have the authority, and I think that the pension board, you know, they have the investment authority essentially,
Yep.
is their role.
Yeah, in fact, in terms of the fire, I mean, the pension board, first of all, anybody who would read that attachment, their eyes would glass over, because it was very complicated. And they honestly, they just said, yeah, okay, if you're gonna simplify it, and whatever works for the town, that's good. So, that's where they're coming from, so, they would, if we told them that we changed that to make it simpler to determine what a year of service is, they wouldn't object, so.
But we look at it through a different lens, you know, I think your point's well taken, you know, we all kinda have a different amount of responsibility, so, no, I'm in favor of this. I think the proposed changes, you know, are positive changes. I think that they reflect, you know, the comments we had last meeting, and,
Yep.
We have a motion?
okay, yeah, I'll say more in discussion, but I'd like to make a motion that we, amend the that we accept amendment number 1 to the Town of Somers Employees Pension Plan, as presented.
Second?
Discussion.
Okay, I just wanna make it clear, and I know the language is here, but I wanna create a record. The intention here is not to make this retroactive, so this change is going forward for any official elected and taking office on or after November 16th, 2021, and will not be applied retroactively to any prior person.
Right, thank you for the clarification.
Yeah, just wanna make sure that's clear.
Very
Yeah.
good.
And as it says at the beginning, it's not effective
Till
until
July first,
anyway.
exactly. Yeah, I just was,
2020.
yeah, that's quite clear.
Yep, and I just wanna make sure for the record that it's not to be retroactive. Yep.
Very good,
So, okay.
thanks.
All those in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye?
Ayes have it, motion passes. Next on the agenda,
We'll just need a signature on that, so we'll attach it to the plan itself for selectmen.
Okay.
Yeah.
And we should probably have the full board sign only because it applies to the first selectman, but, I mean, there's kind of a slight conflict there.
Yeah, it should be all of us.
I mean, I'm fine with signing it, it's just a matter of process, it's just, I don't wanna, there'd be the accusation that they signed something for their benefit.
right, but it was passed by the board.
Oh, I agree, I just,
Do you wanna amend the motion to authorize the first selectman to sign it too, or?
yeah, it's probably a good motion, it's
Yeah.
probably okay, so I agree, I think I would amend the motion to adopt the motion that the board further authorizes the first selectman to sign the amendment authorizing the change.
That's fine.
Any discussion? All those in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good, thanks.
Down to Eversource.
Okay, we're on to, new business.
Mr. Rowland.
Mr. Rowland,
Are you limping, Sean?
Can't sit that long.
Director
Oh, okay.
Rowland.
I hear you.
Good evening, I sent a letter to the first selectman. This is a request for the board of selectmen to authorize the first selectman to sign the agreement between the town of Somers and Eversource. This is for the relamping of the public works department as well as the fire department. to go from the existing fluorescent lighting to, LED lighting.
Okay.
This project was approved by the, Board of Selectmen back in October.
November
It's
4th.
Moved through, we've got the, information back from Eversource, they're honoring the incentives actually for the fire department is the same.
It was approved on November 4th.
Okay,
Yeah.
sorry, November 4th. The DPW is actually, they came back with a $2,000 greater incentive, which is just lower the payment through the term, which is 48 months. The way this is through the Business Advantage Program, we've used this in all of the buildings in town before. They come in and do the relamping work, it's a lease payment over the term, in this case 48 months. And the way they look at the building is the energy saved offsets the cost of the lease. So our net monthly payment does not change. After the 48 months, we have new lights, and our payment is reduced by the amount we're saving every month.
Yeah, it almost ends up paying for itself in the end,
It
right?
does, yeah, quite.
So how does the incentive work into that?
It comes from the green bank, and the way it works is we have to.
$5,396.69.
As part of the printout that we had before with the breakdown of the costs, the incentive gets paid directly to the vendor that's actually buying and putting the lighting in.
Sure.
And then it's a lease payment through Eversource, it comes right on our electric bill every month for each location.
So what's the net cost to us again, just to be clear?
Well, the net is zero. If you take what we're paying in electricity now versus what we're gonna save with the new lighting, you include that saving, let's say if you're, round numbers, $200 a month on a building, you're saving. Well, the $200 a month in savings goes to the lease payment for this project of getting all new lights. After the 48 months, that $200 a month goes away, because you've paid them off.
And they're guaranteed savings?
It's projected savings based on all the engineering that's done on your electric bills and all the engineering done on the lighting, in this case, the lighting.
And this continues on into the
Correct.
future once the
Correct,
cost
after
is
48
paid
month
off.
term, you keep the savings of whatever it is.
Yeah,
It continues.
it's quite clear on this chart that you included that the cash says that after 10 years, we're gonna be in the green. Is that what
Well,
you?
actually, after 48 months, we transfer.
48 months.
Yeah, but I'm just saying that, yeah, but 48, but then even further, we're gonna reap quite a benefit though. you know.
Correct, yeah, over a term of 5 or 10 years, you
Yeah.
reap the savings.
Yeah,
of what that
yeah,
monthly
so it's
payment.
obvious, yeah, I see the first annual savings there is yeah. But, it's pretty good, really, seems to work out.
I guess my question is though, I mean, it's not guaranteed savings, so I mean, I
Correct.
guess if we don't realize that savings, who pays the
Well,
difference?
it's projected savings, just like when you go out and you buy an LED light for your house, and it has, X amount of estimated light to it, which in most cases, is far beyond your existing lights. And in the end, you end up saving after the period of time goes on, but you're not gonna reach the savings until the light has been working for
Right,
X
if you look
number
at
of years.
like under the fire department on that line under financing,
Sure.
the monthly savings projected is $390.24. The monthly payment in order to put the lighting in, to purchase and install the lighting is $337.29. So you're saving money right off the bat. Once the 4-year term is over, the number of months is 48, that monthly payment goes away.
Mm-hmm.
So you see all of the three.
I mean,
So you receive all of it.
I mean, I am familiar with these types of programs. I mean, I guess the reason, and I know this is happening a lot with solar as well, is I've talked to a lot of colleagues, you know, they're coming saying, hey, put in solar, it's gonna cost you this much, but this is how much you're gonna get. And then the
Solar's
bill
different.
comes in, and it's not
Right.
quite as much as you thought.
Solar is different, and it's been our experience that solar is not as good as it's been advertised. We've done this program in every building in town, this building included, some 8 years ago, senior center, Kibbe Ford, both for inside and outside lighting.
Board of Ed.
Board of Ed has done it all throughout, this is a very robust and very well-received program, and their numbers are very good. It's the only way Eversource accepts it, because Eversource reviews everything and believes what they're saying, because they're the ones that are actually making the payment to the vendor, and they're certifying that this lease is a good lease.
Okay.
Yeah, solar's a different animal, absolutely.
Oh, you better believe it, we just put it in our house and we've had issues with it.
If we're gonna do anything in solar, and something I would like to look at with existing solar, we really need to bring in experts, because it is very complicated.
Well, there's a lot of people out in the market trying to sell you energy efficiency and make money. And it looks like, I mean, from what I've seen and what you've just told me, you've done your due diligence, you know, we've researched this thoroughly, you know, the CFO, I think, agrees that with these numbers, that, you know, we expect to realize these cost savings is neutral on the budget. So, I think it's a good thing, you know, it's
And
green, it's saving us money.
This is an Eversource certified
No,
vendor.
sure.
That's correct, and then that's a distinction that, Todd and I have.
Thank you.
There are many, like you say,
Yeah.
consultants out in the marketplace trying to market the exact program that you can get if you go exactly to Eversource itself.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
There's no,
And it's
There's
all
no
underwritten
brainer.
by the Green Bank by the state of Connecticut. I mean, this is all, it's a program through the state, through the utilities, and then they certify the contractors who then talk with the municipalities, and we go back to Eversource, and that's what this is, authorizing the first selectman to sign the agreement with Eversource to receive these incentives from the Green Bank, which will be paid directly to the vendor to purchase and install the lighting.
Okay, and will we get periodic reports from them showing the savings?
Pardon?
Will we get periodic reports that show the savings?
It's
or-
right on, you'll see the monthly bill is different, it's right on the electric bill for each location. The difference, the lease payments on there, it's all listed on every month.
It sounds simple, I do this, I know, it sounds simple, and trying to match up the savings can be a little harder than it sounds.
Oh, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, it's not clear, but I know what you do, cause
Yeah.
we're, as I say, we're having the same thing when we had put solar panels on, and you don't realize the savings until some months, cause you have to get a bank and all this kind of stuff, that, you know, instantaneously it doesn't happen, so you get frustrated, but,
And again, solar's different animals.
Yeah.
but it still sounds similar, where it's gonna take a while for this to be realized.
Right, well, this is, I mean, it's cost neutral essentially for 48 months, and then the lease payment goes away, and you keep those, in
Yeah,
this case,
yeah, it looks great.
But there are also, other than financial costs, there are also environmental benefits
Absolutely.
that need to be taken into consideration.
Oh, of course.
So we're not just talking about money here, folks.
yeah, no, I think the director and the CFO have done their due diligence on this, I think it's a sound proposal. I mean, these are just basic questions, I just wanna
Yeah,
make sure we
yeah.
have these, and I'm
Looks
ready to
great,
vote
yeah.
on it.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Wanna make a motion?
I'll be happy to make a motion. Board of Selectmen, make a motion for the Board of Selectmen to authorize first selectman to sign letters of agreement between the town of Summers and Eversource. These two letters of agreement are required to move the LED relamping projects forward at the Fire and Public Works Department.
Thank you.
Second that.
Any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
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 Motion passed.
Thank you.
Thank you for doing this.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank
Thanks,
you.
Todd.
Nice job.
Very good.
Well done.
Now we have budget presentations. We only have one this evening because the registrar's budget is not yet, ready for
Yeah.
presentation.
And we've rescheduled them to a later.
Next Thursday.
Yeah, next Thursday.
Next week?
Right.
Okay, thank you.
I think Kim's gonna make the, presentation.
So I guess I'll start with, on the list some items that you folks have to agree upon, the separation payout. And you'll see that what was budgeted, actuals, and what's proposed here. Brian and I talked about this, he sat down with me and went over this, and he, thought 20,000 would be good, and then this money would be,
So actually
to
what
the fund.
what I was gonna recommend was, and I put 20,000 there, but I was gonna recommend to you guys, we actually remove that line item from the
Oh,
selectmen's
okay.
budget and put it underneath the transfers area where we have transfers to road maintenance, transfers to capital and so forth. So this will actually be a transfer
Okay.
to that separation fund.
Cause we have a new fund now, so that
Because
makes
we have
sense
a
to
new
have a
fund
different
now.
fund.
So we don't need that as part of the
Just
selectmen's
to
budget.
further elaborate on that, once that fund gets the seed money in it, we're gonna have the actuary, again, look at the profile of the entire, town workforce. Look at all the unfunded liability that exists in terms of payouts, potential payouts,
Mm-hmm.
and then look at the number of years and age, and come up with a number that we would put in here.
So you're gonna be
Yeah.
looking for
On the-
periodic
So
transfers
there'll be
into
a
the
periodic
fund.
transfer into
from
this
the
fund
general.
on
Yeah,
actuarial
so we don't get
basis.
hit with 130,000 like we did this time.
Right.
What I was just gonna say, exactly, yeah.
So it doesn't necessarily have to go in here right now on the budget. It may be a mid-year, issue, but it depends strategically whether or not that would be the right time to do it. It could be the following year, and we put it in the budget, but
makes sense.
Put it in the budget, you don't have to have a special meeting.
Yeah.
So the separation payout then is being withdrawn from the selectmen's budget, is that correct?
Yeah, we put it in there because the line item was still there,
Yeah.
but I was gonna recommend that we remove that line item and put it, with the other transfers to other funds.
Yeah, I think it's probably a good
portion
idea.
of the
It
budget.
makes it less
It's a
confusing.
little more transparent,
Yeah.
less confusing,
Right.
right?
Good.
But it's still gonna fall to the bottom line for the Board of Selectmen's
Right,
overall
it'll still be
budget.
under the town budget overall.
Yeah, it's not gonna really have any
Yep.
net impact.
Still gonna cost us, and the 26,000 you've got at the bottom is still a true number then, you know, the
Just
increase.
not for that specific,
Not for this,
department.
not for
code.
the selectmen's budget, got it.
Makes sense.
I'm just you know, I know you're gonna probably do it, I just wanna make kind of a running total of where we are on each time somebody presents. Cause I just wanna know where we're at, you know?
I understand that.
Oh, yeah.
So,
Okay,
and,
go back to Kim here.
next is Veterans Affairs, Public Relations and Outreach. He hasn't used any of those funds as of yet.
Meaning those were funds appropriated in last year's budget,
Correct.
and he
Yeah.
hasn't spent the money.
And I haven't seen a request for any new funds for the
So-
fiscal year yet, so I left those at zero.
So the question is, do we do that or not? So that's a question for you folks.
Yeah,
I know he gets donations and so forth.
cause
I wish he
we
was
keep
here
getting
tonight,
monthly
but-
reports from him saying that he's expensing more money than,
Yeah, so I don't really understand.
yeah, I'm in the same boat, that's why I'm just completely confused.
So maybe when he comes to do his ROV budget, we can ask those questions.
Well, we have veterans
Oh,
budget
and
the same
veterans.
night as social services.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah,
It's in 2 weeks.
yeah, so that's a good time
2 weeks,
to
yes.
raise those
Okay,
questions.
so I'll leave it as it is tonight, right now.
Yeah, we can
Um,
always go back and
that's
modify it.
okay with everybody?
Thank you.
One thing I would like to add while we're talking about the Veterans Affairs,
Sure.
budget is, there also is a need to be transparent with regards to, contributions that they receive, and what happens to those monies. Because Veterans, Department is part of the town government.
Yeah.
Is
Even
there a
though
special fund? I mean, where's that money deposited now?
So right now, well, when Veterans Affairs started and they started collecting donations, they were getting, $20 and $30 donations, and they were basically spending them right away on coffee and so forth. So we just had a general fund liability line item as it set up as a donation to show the positive, show the expense, have a net, that way it doesn't hit the balance sheet. As time has progressed, we've realized that there's a lot more money coming in donations than we should be having sitting in a liability account as a positive liability. Mike and I have discussed it, I recommended to him that we, segment out a department code within the emergency fund specifically for, veterans, since these donations are, to be used to assist veterans in need, put on programs for veterans in need and so forth, and, our social services department, is basically the oversight on the emergency fund, making the recommendations of what to spend based on need and necessity. She has an entire formula on it. And so then that way it gives a little continuity to what the funds are being expended
And
on.
accountability.
And accountability on it, to know that they're being used properly and not they're not being overspent and so forth as well. It's all formula-based spending at that
Okay.
point.
Great.
So all money and receipts received go into the town's checking account, or the town's account, and then all expenditures drawn are drawn through the treasury in town checks.
Not
We
yet.
believe that, we believe
Not
that.
yet.
We have not been cutting any checks because nothing has come to us to expend.
Yeah, there's been no transparency whatsoever, that's the problem.
Yeah.
And-
Yes.
And they are receiving
They've received
significant funds, donations.
significant donations, and I have not expensed $1 in 8-9 months.
Well, I guess
So I
that's,
don't know what I don't know.
So this is yet to be discussed in a future,
yeah,
hearing.
yeah.
Well, I think we should put it on the agenda.
Well, it is on the agenda.
Yeah.
Well, the budget is, I mean, I think maybe this may even be a separate item, I mean, outside of the appropriation, I think the acceptance of donations and, I mean, does the town have a donation acceptance policy?
The only really donations that we receive are for, the emergency fund.
Emergency fund.
And so then we deposit them in the emergency fund for use, cause they're donations to assist people that are in need.
I mean, we don't have a policy, I mean, if somebody
Not that I'm aware of.
leaves us a plot of land or something in Florida, I mean,
You say we don't want it.
We don't want it, probably swamp anyway.
I mean,
It's like, we're not going there.
okay, all right.
Yeah, not that I'm aware of, so.
Okay, well, we have
Well,
that.
cause the reason why it's also is interesting, cause I was talking to Allison, Maynard, and she was saying that one of the things that she would like to see is coordination between the veterans and
Yeah,
her
I
department.
think we're gonna get to that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just saying, I think those are things that we need to hash out here and how this is all going. And I know Representative Courtney was here today too, so hopefully we can get something from the federal government.
Yeah, I think we should have that, maybe in 2 weeks as a separate item, as far as donations and,
So do you want?
it may require an ordinance too, we'll see. I mean, let's take a
Do you
look
want
at
it
it.
just to be a discussion, like, or just?
I think a discussion item
Yeah, I
would be
think it's a
good.
discussion item from
Yeah.
veterans, as far as how donations are taken and.
Yeah, we need to clarify this.
Mhm.
And then also we'll need for that meeting, any rules around the emergency fund, is there an ordinance already? What rules and regulations?
I don't think there's an ordinance, we have an audit, usage,
We should make an ordinance around all this stuff. Just make it so clean, cause I wanna protect the directors, I wanna protect the town, cause I don't want anyone to say, why'd you buy someone this, and they should be acting within an ordinance. Okay. It protects everyone.
Go ahead,
Okay.
Kim.
Oh, sorry, I was just making notes. Legal services, is next. Those that's Pat McHale, Carl Landoliner, and other legal counsel.
Oh, okay,
So we obviously went over it and
okay, so that's why it's gone up so much, okay,
Yeah,
got
no, I
it.
think 30,000, even that's probably low.
Yeah, so,
Yeah, so
that's another discussion.
last year we had it all in one account, the 78,958. In the current year budget, we separated between land use and selectmen.
Okay,
The selectmen line at 20,000, it's already been overexpensed in the current year.
right,
Land use currently, what did I say, 5,800
Yeah.
it's at,
But
so.
Well, they have
And they
their.
have a $40,000
Yeah.
line item there, so we're
It's gonna
probably,
balance
we're
out.
gonna anticipate a transfer, but realistically, 30 here, if we decrease them to 30 there, it might balance out as well.
And
This year hasn't been as bad for land use as it was in the prior year.
that's good.
Right.
Given the nature of those engagements, it's better to have two separate line items and
Yeah.
two separate cost centers.
Good
It's
idea.
very confusing when it was all lumped into one.
I
Yeah.
thought so.
Yeah,
Okay.
thank you.
So land and building services, this was, used in the past for planimetrics and the zoning regulations. Those are done, but there's other maybe needs for it for POC updates.
Yeah, two things that I'm particularly aware of are, something called Sustainable Connecticut that I think Summers could benefit greatly by participating and becoming a member of that. Whereas I think at least 2/3 of the existing towns are already members, so we're sort of an island that's unto
Oh.
itself,
Yep.
doing nothing in that regard, and there are lots of benefits that come from that, including, matched funds that we would be needing in the future, and also it directs us to do certain things like this, bulb,
Yeah, things we're already doing.
green
We
bulb.
can identify that.
You're-
Um,
And we
is
can
something-
be
yeah.
available, these
I'm
funds will be
very familiar
available.
with it.
Right.
I've heard
yeah,
a lot of
so
action
Vernon
items.
is-
Vernon,
yeah,
I guess, has a
Vernon's
big
very,
program.
very
It's
big.
one of the top in the
Yeah.
state.
Yep.
It's one of the, we've received the most points of any
And
community.
another program that I'm very interested in, and I've mentioned it to the Board of Selectmen in the past 2 years, is, improvements to the plan of, POCD, Plan
Yes.
of,
Conservation
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 Development.
development, yeah.
Even though the 10-year period hasn't been up for renewing this plan, many things have happened that, like climate change and emergency response and low-income housing that require attention much sooner than waiting 3 years when the 10-year cycle is up. And that this would, the plan would be that we would have a team of experts come in and talk to us about what other towns have done, why these principles are important, how the town could benefit from it, and why it's timely to consider it. So that was, thinking there was it might require a couple of thousands of dollars to bring the people in, have a symposium, say, in this room, on a Saturday over a 3-4 hour period, provide lunch, and get some good public dialogue in that regard. So that was another consideration that I had, and there might be some others as well down the road.
So we don't currently have a town planner.
We do. We have a planning board.
We have a commission, but we don't have a staff member.
No,
No.
Do we have a consulting service that provides planning services?
Planometrics is the group we've used in the past, and that's why, that's what where the money was spent
Yeah,
in the last
for,
year because of the revision
the last
to
3
There was
years.
no coordinator
Zoning
other than
commission.
the selectmen, I would think, I mean, I didn't.
Yeah.
the town changed, it revised its zoning
They give us a report or
regulations.
anything?
Excuse me?
Do they give a report
What are
on
you talking about?
planometrics?
Yeah, he worked on the zoning regs
Yeah,
for the
for
last 3
several
years.
years.
Okay, I
3
just
years.
didn't, yeah, that's good, I just didn't know,
Oh, okay.
I'm asking
Okay.
it a question, cause I don't know.
Oh, I thought.
I know,
So,
don't know a lot, that's why I'm always running around bothering you so much.
So the next item is, insurance.
Where are we, liability and, so this is Kerma, I attached some sheets for you to see kind of what, the budget indications are gonna be,
This one here.
upcoming, yeah.
Yeah,
And then there's also, a budget stabilization, letter in there that Bud signs for the next 3 years.
okay.
So the liability, is gonna be 0. Workers' comp's not on here because it's on the employee benefit, excuse me, but it's -3%, for the upcoming year, so that's good. We're doing what we're supposed to be doing, everybody's doing good training, the Department of Public Works and fire department, so we're trending very, very good,
That's good.
yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Postage.
Postage, that's just our meter and, usage, everybody uses it, townwide, so, postage goes up, we send more things out now, I think, between tax and the ROV.
Registrar's office uses it.
Everybody does, yeah.
Yeah, registrars,
For
Tax-
veterans,
tax office.
Everybody,
yeah,
townwide.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, even the police
Fire,
department comes up
everybody.
with.
We've got a lot of additional activity this year because
Yes,
of
we
the
do.
4 elections that we're
Absolutely.
anticipating, town
So that,
elections.
Well, I just wanna go back for 1 second, I just
Sure.
noticed, on legal services,
yeah.
in the line item detail, can we amend, I mean, I see names of attorneys there, I'd rather say,
Oh,
labor
sorry,
attorney,
I just-
town attorney.
Okay, sorry.
I just don't wanna put a specific, cause they may not be our attorneys,
Right,
but,
yeah.
okay, thank you, just take the names out, yeah.
Kim, there's just a silly thing here, on the budget, you have my name in here to get paid for a stipend
That's
still.
Brian, he did that.
We covered
That
that.
was me.
Okay, I'm sorry.
I got a big circle around it.
I'm sorry,
Yeah.
Brian, I'm
You
trying.
can only update so much at a time.
I know, I'm sorry, I'm not trying to be mean, okay, all right.
He knows.
You can throw rocks at me later.
Well, I mean, the other option can be to add the party, but I mean, I know sometimes there's people, sometimes there's, cause there's one from each party.
Yeah, normally I update the entire list, and that's why when I emailed it out to you guys too, I put on there, I think I got everyone. Apparently I missed Andrea.
The numbers are correct, but,
Yeah.
just the name.
Any other items you wanna mention in the list here? Kim?
Advertising, that is for the legal notices and so forth, mileage, that's for people going from here to there.
So,
That did go up. Cultural Commission, we give them $2,500 towards their programs. That's been happening since I've been here.
Did I typo that, or is that,
Which one?
Did they ask for a cut?
or
No.
did we cut it 500? It looks like a typo.
Oh, that's a typo, yeah. That should be 25.
Yeah, I was just kinda,
Ann Lebeck will be
I
all over
just
you.
didn't.
well, that's what I was thinking, my wife's on the cultural commission, and I asked her, I said, you guys cutting it by
No,
500? And she
no.
looked at me like I was crazy.
You don't wanna do that.
My spreadsheet cell just didn't, it's right on the one sheet, it just didn't track properly.
okay, we'll make that correction. Next is the Memorial Day expenses.
Yeah, so that's for, flags down Main Street, so the American Legion, they handled that for us, which is beautiful.
And the high school,
That's for their ceremony, we, give them $500 towards whatever, the kids wanna buy that year to, all have bracelets or whatever.
Mhm.
And then the cemetery flags are for the Girl Scouts to do the markers and stuff like that, like the American Legion and or the Veterans Affairs Office.
flags on graves.
And they contact me through all that, so I'll handle that.
Okay,
Just office supplies, that's exactly what it is,
Yeah.
office supplies. I just sometimes stay under that, the water coolers, new equipment and rentals. I went down on that, we haven't really been hitting that, so, that's a decrease. Dues and seminars.
so the new equipment includes
So
water.
just the cooler, like
cooler.
we got big charges for that,
The only
Mhm.
thing we've been buying out of
Okay.
there was water.
Dues and seminars.
CROG, CCM cost, and any other additional learning, seminars that folks wanna go to. It's approved by the first selectman first, so.
Okay, good, good to know.
That's just something they arbitrarily sign up for and go to. And then, obviously, the 10,000, we reduced that, for other. I haven't been really using a lot of that for different things. It's really more for onboarding people, like, for, just office equipment.
Yeah, sure.
Office furniture.
Things that come up, right?
Business all of our paper comes out of there, just weird miscellaneous things that, from professional services, the selectmen's
Yeah, like our
office.
town sanitarian asked for some kind of
Yeah,
container
just
that she could use to carry
Yeah,
tools
just
around.
things like that,
Yeah.
they don't have money in their budget, because they just have office supplies.
Sure, makes sense.
So just stuff like that, that was reduced.
What's the,
Well-
top item there, funerals, deaths, illnesses,
Oh, that's just for flowers and, sympathy cards and stuff
Yeah.
like that, and for,
Town-
Who do those go to?
Like employees' families, like when I had
town
back surgery, I
residents.
think they sent me a fruit basket or something.
well, and not just, well,
But
this is for
remember-
residents too.
Yeah, residents.
Family members that have passed away,
No,
or
I mean, this
Board
is,
members.
but that's why I bring it up, I mean,
boards
that's,
and commissions members.
some of my concern is that I think, and I've heard this from others in the past,
Okay.
I mean, it's inconsistently sometimes done, that, somebody got one and somebody else didn't,
Oh, okay.
and,
I
it
don't
becomes.
mean to miss anybody, but
I think
I know
that's
that,
definitely
like,
a challenge that we need to meet,
Yeah, I mean, I think if
That's
we
okay.
limit it in scope to, town employees,
Sure.
and, death of immediate family or something, no more than
Okay.
$50, I think
Okay.
something like that is palatable.
Okay,
I think that,
Yeah,
that
I
the
like
problem
that, yeah.
becomes, too many Democrats got it, or too many
Oh,
Republicans got
I
it, or
don't
you're
know.
friends with
I
so-and-so.
don't know.
I don't think we ever had a problem like that here in
I do
Plymouth.
not think like that.
Oh, I've heard, I mean, the problem is when you
Yeah.
use taxpayer money, and, send it out to, say, a resident,
Yeah.
I mean, where do you draw the line?
Well, no, I was,
No.
it's more volunteer.
We're not talking about residents, we're talking about town employees and their families is what we're talking about.
Well, that's what I just said, that's not what we just heard has been done in the past.
I think we've done boards, like
Like
board and
commission
commission members, that,
Longstanding
the
commission members, I
longstanding,
think we've done.
that kind of thing, but I
Yeah.
understand what you're saying, that's okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's just interesting, I mean, not that, like for instance myself, not that I won anything, but I mean, like, I don't think
I understand.
I received an arrangement like when my father died, with a former fire chief and a current member of the Board of Finance. Again, not that I expected one or wanted one, but like how
Right.
is it decided,
okay.
I mean, if it's across the board,
Right.
Yeah.
so I think, I think it
Sure.
just needs to be consistent, that's
Yeah.
all,
Yeah.
and
Great.
not.
That's fair.
Absolutely, I
Yeah, yeah.
understand that completely.
Right.
Thank you. And then, off that, that's all I got, I guess.
That's it. It covers it.
Also, there's a to-date budget, kind of where we're standing, for you in there as well.
Yeah, so that was good.
And then Brian also put, salaries in there, that's for, not tonight, but for you
Yeah,
guys to
to
see
give
where
you guys
everything
an
is.
idea of, what the total salaries are in town, so you can get an idea, if you wanted. Last year, they created a pool that was then dispersed by the directors, that each director was given a pool of money, and the pool was voted on by the board, you were a member of it at the
It
time.
was a percentage of.
Yeah, it was a percentage of total salary townwide, so you
And
can.
it usually relates to cost of living increase.
Right.
And it's the,
Which I don't think you're gonna hit
the
that number
directors-
this year, but, But, yeah, that way you can get an idea if you wanted to do the math, or I can update this sheet, cause apparently I need to make a couple of changes and resend it, and I can put, 1, 2, 2.5, 3, 5, 7 to match inflation, whatever you want.
Well, that would be nice, that'd be great. No, I think that'd be nice, yeah, 'cause inflation's been pretty high, so, obviously.
And, there's four people on the right-hand side of the page, 3 at the library, 1 under human services. I highlighted them in green, and I don't know if you can read it underneath the library portion, but it says, effective July 1st, 2022,
Yeah.
minimum wage becomes $14, and those people are all currently under what minimum wage would be.
Oh, okay.
So we would have to address that,
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I would hope so, 'cause I know we already addressed that in the, in the registrars, we just bumped them up right away.
okay,
So that's kind of all I got.
Well, thank you.
thank you very much.
Thank you.
So I guess at a future meeting, we'll have a recommendation as far as, once we see the bottom line proposed increase, as far as for salaries, what we think as a percentage would be.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we'll
Okay.
there'll be a future discussion.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, this was just to get it in front of you guys,
No,
so you
thank
can
you. This is
start
great.
reviewing it.
Yeah.
get some
No,
ideas.
thank you very much.
Great.
That
This
was,
is
that was very kind of you.
So next on the agenda are approval of minutes. We have, I believe, four different items that I've reviewed all of them myself, made some, recommended additions, not additions, but improved language.
Yeah.
So, first one up is the, minutes of January sixth, regular meeting of the Board of Selectmen, 2022. It's under K.A.
Yeah. Read them all, they look pretty good, Kim.
Yes.
I haven't listened to all of the meetings since I wasn't here.
Yeah, you have to catch up, I know.
I apologize, these are late.
Kim's been out because
I'm
she's
very
been sick
sorry.
and she came back and spent a
Is it
lot
a
of
cure for
time
insomnia?
listening to these
No,
meetings.
no, they were interesting.
They were interesting?
I enjoyed actually,
Okay, good. I was just curious.
it's a good pressure for me to catch up too, for
Yeah,
so many of you guys.
yeah. So, helps you keep updated, right?
Absolutely.
So we have a motion to, approve the minutes of, January sixth, 2022, regular Board of Selectmen meeting.
I'd be happy to make that motion that we approve the, minutes of the January sixth, 2022 meeting.
You,
I'll second it.
any discussion? All those in favor of approving the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you.
Next set of minutes would be
The special.
approval
Oh,
of
I
minutes
missed it.
of
I missed
the
the-
regular meeting of the Board of Selectmen on January 13th.
Yeah, there were two of them, so, sorry.
Okay, so we're doing K,
Yeah, I might have
first?
switched
We're doing
those out,
K.
sorry.
We're doing KC first versus KB.
whichever one, I mean, just,
Whatever's one.
Let's just do KB in the order that you got them, so no need to change the order now.
Sorry.
Okay, so it's approval of the, minutes of January 13th, 2022. Do I hear a motion? Regular meeting, Board of Selectmen.
Yeah, I'm happy to make that motion that we approve the, minutes of the regular meeting on January 13th, 2022.
I'll second that.
Any discussion?
No?
All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Okay, next period would be the special meeting of the Board of Selectmen, minutes of January 13th, 2022. Which, as you recall, was a very short meeting,
Yeah, I remember that one.
public meeting.
Yeah.
Do I hear a motion?
Yeah, I'd be happy to make a motion to approve the, minutes for the special meeting on January 13th, 2022.
Thank you.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Bill?
Yeah, aye,
Yeah,
sorry.
aye, yeah.
Yeah, sorry.
Motion passes.
Okay.
The last item for approval are the regular minutes, regular meeting minutes of the Board of Selectmen from January 20th, 2022.
You guys do a lot of work.
I'll be happy to, make a motion to, approve the, minutes of the regular meeting on January 20th, 2022.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, passes.
Alright, thank you.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We hear a motion for adjournment.
Can I, make a comment?
Sure.
Yes.
Just, wanted to address the board about the impending storm on Saturday.
Oh,
Oh, thank you, yeah.
As it's the first significant storm of your tenure as Board of Selectmen. So the first selectman and I met yesterday and talked about past practices and what we do in storms of this nature. Our April forecast is calling for 6 to 12 inches on Saturday with some winds, not as bad as the Cape, obviously. That's still speculative as the models still don't agree and we're not sure
Correct,
what's gonna happen.
yeah.
One has it going out to sea
We
with
understand.
nothing, another has us getting 2 feet, something's gonna happen. Tomorrow afternoon, I'll make the decision, once we have the final forecast, which my gut says it will be a significant storm. The first selectman has approved a parking ban starting at 6 AM on Saturday through 6 AM Sunday. I've already reached out to the police department and gave them a list of the usual suspects that go door knocking tomorrow and ask to
Good.
remind them that they can't park on town roads, so that we can clear the roads. Typically, we close buildings. I will recommend to the library that they close as soon as we get a forecast that says it's going to be significant. The library board makes that decision, and then the director will decide if it's closing that through the library board. Other than that, we're ready to go as best as we can be, and we're always ready. Normal operations such as this, it's nice it's a Saturday, there's no schools to worry about.
Right.
Less traffic. We will plow throughout Saturday. I'll usually release everybody. The storm looks like it winds up Saturday around midnight.
Right.
With very light snow for the preceding 4 hours. I'll probably kick everybody out around 9 or 10 at night. We come back in around 4 or 5 the next morning and do a final cleanup, and then we'll do all the buildings and the walks.
Yeah, I spoke to the director of the library board today, and, they pretty much want to align their, being open with whether the schools are open or not. But in this
Right.
case, of course, the schools are not open on Saturday, but if it had been a school day, they would have been closed.
Right, and then they would typically
Yeah.
close, and
So
that was my
it's likely
recommendation to the
that they'll be
director. If
closed.
the schools would have closed if it were a
Right.
school
That
day.
makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense.
That's also true of the busing for the senior center.
So how are you gonna get this
Buses
notice,
follow the
how are you gonna get this notice out?
The way we get the notice out is Everbridge, the social media, Facebook, the town website. We also contact the TV station, the local TV news. We'll put it out on the board in front of this building tomorrow.
Yeah, great.
For parking ban is really the biggest thing. We will probably close, if you do the parking ban, it's significant snow, we'll close the recycling center as well. And that'll be part of the notice.
That makes sense.
Yeah. And Todd, I'm glad you sent those guys out the other night too, in the middle of the night.
Oh,
No.
that, honestly, this Saturday is gonna be a joy. Versus these little tiny.
I know that.
Did you also say we're gonna put a notice on the front of the building,
Correct, yeah,
a
we'll put a
sign there?
notice on the
Okay,
front.
all right,
Yeah,
Tomorrow.
thank you. Oh, nice, nice
Thank
job.
you.
Awesome.
great.
Thank you.
Great job.
Motion to adjourn.
Yeah, sure, I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second that.
All those in favor of adjournment?
Aye.
Aye.
We're adjourned.
Todd, do you have a second? I wanted to show you something.
Super.